Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Sabrina and I would love it so much if you would subscribe. I know it looks like I'm not wearing a shirt, but I am wearing a shirt. My hair is just covering it because you can see my bra. I didn't want you to come for me, and my cat just climbed up and clawed my shoulder, so if you're seeing that, that's what that is. But if you guys haven't seen my last video, then surprise, you do not know that I am expecting. I am currently 12 weeks pregnant today. Today is Wednesday, August 5th, and I turn a new week every Wednesday, so I'm filming this on a day where I feel good. I've been wanting to film this for a while because in the last video you guys saw a reaction to finding out that I was pregnant, but I didn't tell you like what led up to that, and so I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to kind of share my symptoms and what's been happening over the last 12 weeks. I'm going to call this a first trimester recap, even though I'm technically not out of my first trimester yet, but as you guys will see, the symptoms have kind of been the same for me over the last few weeks, and I'm just ready to get this up to talk to you guys. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So first, I want to tell you how we found out we were pregnant. I know that I kind of explained it a little bit in that video, but there's a lot that leads up to it, so I do want to go over that with you. So I found out that I was pregnant on Sunday, June 14th. I took off that weekend because June 13th is the anniversary of my car accident, and we were celebrating 8 years together. I was celebrating 8 years being in a wheelchair, and I like to celebrate that because it is a celebration of life as opposed to like being sad and depressed. So that morning, Jacob and I did have plans to go have lunch together. The kind of plan was to kind of like day drink and just have a good relaxing weekend. So we did go out to his restaurant, and at the restaurant I started to feel really sick. I thought that I was having an anxiety attack, so I told him like, we gotta go. Like, I'm not feeling good at all. Like, we need to leave or I'm going to throw up or crap my pants or something. Like, we gotta go. So we boxed up our food, and as we're waiting for our food, I was like, Jacob, you know, my period is not here. It was only like a day or two late at that point, which isn't abnormal for me. Ever since I got off birth control, my periods have been very irregular. Sometimes they will be up to like a week late, and so there have been pretty times in the past where I have tested and thought that I was pregnant and nothing came of it. So Jacob was like, we'll go to Walmart, we'll get you a test, but let's wait to take the test because at that point, like I said, it had only been a few days since I'd missed my period. So that night we got together with some friends. We had a cookout at our house and just kind of had a relaxing evening, just celebrating everything that I have to be thankful for. The next morning on Sunday, I did have a tattoo appointment, and because I wasn't feeling good, I'm a chronic tester. Like, if I think that I'm pregnant, I'm peeing on 18 sticks. So I went to the closet and got out a pregnancy test, trying to be all sneaky about it because I didn't want Jacob to know if it was negative, because then that's embarrassing. He doesn't care, but to me it's like, oh, it's embarrassing. So I'm like sneaking it out. I go into the bathroom, I pee on the stick, and it came up immediately. Like, immediately, I'm not even kidding. The first line, like, I thought it was broke because the pregnancy line showed up before the control line. I literally screamed from the bathroom, Jacob, get in here, I think I'm pregnant. And I heard him come running, and he was like, what, are you serious? Because we've done this with that before. There have been times where there's it looked like a faint line that I saw, and he didn't see anything. I'm like, I swear I'm pregnant, I think I'm pregnant. This time there was no denying it. I will post the picture here. It was a dark line, like, it was there, I was pregnant. And so I come out of the bathroom and I start freaking out. I'm like, what do we do? Like, I have to cancel my tattoo appointment. And that shouldn't have been my first thought, but that was my first thought because that's what I was getting ready for. And I'm like, who do I tell? What do we do? And we're just kind of freaking out. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, should I film? Do I film? He's like, film your reaction. And I'm so glad that I did film my reaction because that video is so special to me. You can see my true and honest reaction to finding out that I'm going to be a mom, and I will hold that memory forever. So if you were somebody even who doesn't have a YouTube channel or want to be open on social media, if you can, film that moment because it is so special to me, and I will look back on that for the rest of my life. So immediately after finding out, I called my tattoo artist, I canceled my appointment, and then because I planned on going back home to get tattooed, I ended up telling my sister that I wanted to stop by to see her. I was heading that way. It was so hard not to tell her on the phone that I was pregnant. So I ended up going there, and you guys, I explained how I told her in the video, and she was the first person I told besides Jacob and my tattoo artist. And so that's kind of how we found out I was pregnant. It really came full circle because I feel like When I had my car accident, I don't know if I've talked about this on YouTube, but when I had my car accident, I thought that that was the moment that God had been preparing me for, because my whole life I felt like I couldn't have kids. I remember being like 13 and having this idea in my head that I would never be able to carry my own children, and so that stuck with me literally my whole life. And so when I had my car accident, I was like, this is what God has been preparing me for my whole life. He's been, you know, building me up for this moment because he was trying to prepare me. So I was coming out of emergency surgery on my back on the 14th, because I got injured on the 13th, and then the 14th is when I had my surgery, and I was awake from anesthesia, and I was screaming at the doctors like, does this prevent me from carrying my own kids? And there was a lot of uncertainty. Even when I first started talking about having kids a couple of years ago, the doctors still didn't know. Even now, there's a lot of uncertainty about my pregnancy and what will happen later on, but there's just a lot of uncertainty with spinal cord injuries. So it really all came full circle, and that's what makes it so special to me, because it's just, the timing is just amazing. So that's how we found out I was pregnant. I mean, I think it's a really cool story. It wasn't a very long story, but it is special to me. So now let's get into the symptoms. So there are things that happened before I actually found out that I was pregnant that I didn't know are pregnancy symptoms until I Googled after. Okay, so I have a little notepad on my phone. I wrote down some symptoms week by week, but like I said, as it gets like later in the weeks, they all kind of merge together and are the same things. So week 1 through 4, some of the symptoms that I had were a sharp stabbing pain in my lower stomach. I thought that I was getting a bladder infection because I was having like tingles, like twinges in my stomach, but it was lower. It was lower like where my uterus was, but I wasn't even thinking that I was pregnant. I just thought that I had a bladder infection, because I get those a lot because of my spinal cord injury. I did have, this is kind of a TMI, but I did have bright green diarrhea. I wrote up until 4 weeks and 4 days. I thought that I was having a flare-up with my IBS. I have a lot of health problems. I thought that I was having a flare-up with my IBS, and I was getting so frustrated because it didn't matter what I did, I kept having diarrhea. Come to find out, bright green diarrhea is an early pregnancy symptom that I didn't know existed. There was one time where I was changing with Jacob, and he was like, honey, your nipples look darker. And I was like, what? That's an early pregnancy symptom. He's like, yeah, they look a lot darker. And then I was looking at them, and they looked veinier. Like, I have veiny boobs anyway, but they started to look kind of veiny. I was very sleepy and exhausted, but I thought that was because I was doing a lot at that time. I was working and I was going out and hanging out with friends. Like, I was really pushing my body to the limit, and I thought that's why I was so tired. But come to find out, I was just having a little baby growing inside me. I wrote down heartburn, but that's not abnormal for me. I was hot and cold all the time. So I am someone who's always cold, but I started to get really, really hot, and that's really abnormal for me. Like, even now there are times where I will just be like, Jacob, I need you to turn on a fan or something like that, which is not normal for me. I'm always cold. I still definitely get cold, but I am noticing that I'm getting hot a lot too. I wrote that I was really bloated. Right before, probably about 5 days before I was supposed to start my period, I was driving to hang out with my friends, and I started bawling to a rap song, and I thought that I was just being emotional because my period was coming, and I made like a joke on Snapchat about it. Come to find out, no, I'm actually pregnant, and that's why I was crying. My boobs did start to get sore later on in the pregnancy, and I'm still dealing with sore nipples now. So week 5, a lot of the symptoms were the same. I had a lot of cramping this week. I actually started to get really nervous that the cramping was bad, but if you are someone who is like me, who is very anxious about that stuff, cramping is actually a normal thing in pregnancy, as long as it's not accompanied by bleeding. So as long as you're having cramping, it's just because everything's stretching. Like, even now, I'm 12 weeks pregnant and I'm still experiencing that stretching feeling, and that's totally normal. I've talked to my doctor about it, and as long as there is no blood that comes with it, cramping is totally a normal sign of pregnancy. I started to get vivid dreams week 5, and I still feel like I'm getting vivid dreams. They were more vivid at the earlier parts of my pregnancy than they are now. Week 6 is when I had a random nosebleed, and a little bit later you'll see that one time I was brushing my teeth and my gums just started bleeding like a lot, and apparently that's a pregnancy symptom too. And then week 6 is when I started to get sick. I wrote that my nausea started to hit hard. Week 7, I wrote that I was just really super sick. Week 8, I wrote that I was throwing up a lot. Week 9, I wrote that I was starting to feel more energy. So what I want to say also too for this is, I started battling a really bad UTI that turned bladder infection about week 7, I want to say, and I think that bladder infection, which I'm still dealing with to this day, is one of the reasons why I've been so sick. I have a spinal cord injury, so I deal with those a lot, but my doctor did say that infections like UTIs are very common in pregnancy too, and I think that is what's making me the most sick. I've ended up in the emergency room twice. You saw in the last video me ending up in the emergency room, and I ended up in the emergency room a couple of days ago because I wasn't able to eat or drink anything for several days, like 2 days. Week 10 and 11, I was still struggling with nausea, feeling sick, throwing up. I've had the nausea for me has been the worst part. I have thrown up a lot more recently, but at first I was just feeling really nauseous where I wasn't eating anything or drinking anything. I had a lot of aversions, which I can make another video talking about my pregnancy cravings and aversions if you guys want that. Week 10, I also had it where I was brushing my teeth and my teeth started like gushing blood, and I was really concerned about this, so I asked my mom, and she said that happened to her too in her pregnancies. One thing that absolutely scares me is like the baby's taking calcium from my teeth, and I'm scared all my teeth are gonna fall out. I don't know if that's common, but that's something that I'm thinking about right now, because everyone's like, the baby will get what it needs from you no matter what, and like your bone density goes down whenever you're pregnant. There's just a lot of things that happen when you're pregnant that I did not know about until I got pregnant. So last week was week 11, and like I said, I don't know if I said it here, but I did I'm filming a vlog alongside this. I talked about it, but I did end up in the emergency room a couple of days ago because of that UTI. I had been sick for 2 days, and I wasn't able to even hold water down, so I went into the emergency room to get fluids. This is the second time in this pregnancy that I've been in the emergency room needing fluids. This time I waited a little longer, so I think I was a lot more sick when I went in. They gave me 2 bags of fluids, well, a bag and a half of fluids, 2 rounds of anti-nausea medicine through my IV, a round of antibiotics, and took me off work for the week, which is why I'm here now filming this for you. They moved up my 12-week appointment, so I actually got to see our baby yesterday, and they're in there just swimming, kicking, they're moving their arms, and like they even open their mouth. It's so crazy how little they are, but how they are to look like a baby. It's just insane to me. So that's kind of been my pregnancy symptoms. I have been struggling a lot with my mental health, and I do want to talk about that in detail, so I'm not going to go into it very much here, but my mental health aspect of it I think has been the worst part for me. I struggled very heavily with my mental health and dealing with all that, so I am going to go into detail in a better video in the future talking about that, just because it's not something that people talk about a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a long-winded video, and if you can't tell, I'm thirsty. I keep clicking my lips and it's driving me crazy, so I'm sorry if that bothered you guys as well. If you guys haven't subscribed, please do so. Make sure you follow me on Instagram because I'm doing a lot of bump dates and stuff there. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.